So it's a long story. I'm older than most of the people involved in startups. So there are a lot of years. So I finished the university in 95 or 96. And then immediately I jumped into a job that was in a pre-sales engineering type of, in a telecom business. And I grew up from that towards GTS Telecom, where I was lucky enough in that period of opportunities to arrive quite fast to the position or the role that would run the operations of GTS into Romania and later also Bulgaria and Moldova. With that, we had a lot of experiences of, expanding in Central Europe, learning how a big company succeeds, how a big company goes bankrupt, because there is a KPN Quest who bought us back in 2002 and went bankrupt. We had 3 waves of private equity buying us. We acquired companies, we did a lot of things, launched many products, and I guess it was very interesting at that time. Telecom and data centers were the hottest thing in town, really, at least in Romania. So it was very good to be at the forefront of what's gonna come here. I'm saying that because it has an impact on what I do today. So basically it was a lot of experience, operational experience, a lot of M&A experience, a lot of, real being under the grind pressure. Then later in life, I did a few exits there with the company, with GTS, together with our team from GTS. And then later I moved to UPC LGI and actually to Microsoft, where it was a second wave of learning. And it was so very refreshing to interact with IT, software dev, and with a big, large company that has a very strong vision about how the business world should run. And you learn a lot about how to do sales, how to do marketing, how you build channel partners, how you build a lot of things that are useful later, right? So, and then over there, I was actually in charge of DX, which was basically developer experience, dealing with developers on all kinds of setups, from, edutech to startups to ISVs. So it was really very interesting to interact with the ecosystem from there, from the perspective of, a very structured perspective of a big company like Microsoft. So what I started to do back then was also to do some angel investing type of activity together with some friends. One of them is Sergio, which is the co-founding partner in GapMinder. And then I started to look at one accelerator program, which was Recap back then. And that was Alex Roof, which is also a partner in GapMinder. And working with, also in many events, we went together with Hugh Brown and met Cosmin Okishore, which is another partner. Now, Christy also I met while I was in Microsoft for certain events that were in Cluj. He had an accelerator called Sprint Point. So there you go. These are the people that finally in 2017, we actually applied together to this program of EIF back then. And we are the first ones to actually succeed in raising a fund out of that program. So it was like 10 months from February to December, and we did a first closing of the first fund at 26 million. And then within 1 year and something, we did like 50 million euro fund. So when we entered into the ecosystem, there were basically not so much money in the market. So it was really very high opportunity for us to be one of the first VC funds, and actually chronologically to be the first active ones in the last few years. It was good. It was good. And all the experience that we had in the previous years, all of us, each one of us in the team, was actually very helpful, because, it's one thing if you are just okay, whatever specialization. And it's another thing if you have enough years to gather all that experience to be, even a guy who's an operator, even a guy that's an investor or an M&A guy. So all these experiences are equally important in what we do today. Okay, first of all, a startup, if the team wants to actually sell their services they are a B2B startup and they want to sell the services to enterprise or to SME, they need to learn the way these guys are operating, what are the internal processes, and how they take decisions, how they move, what are their cycles and all that. So basically they understand their customer. If they want only to copy something from there, they should look at the way they deal with budgets, the way they deal with tools, the vision that they have and how they drive certain things. Like right now it's an opportunity, AI, right? AI, it's entering the door through this first wave, which is called generative AI, which is just the first phase. It's not the full AI. And to be fair, the tools have been developed along the years. They have been present in the market in different forms. They have been even restricted to machine learning, but they have been here for a while. But now there is a phase of generative AI, which is an opportunity, and you cannot stop thinking like, okay, who's going to win this game? So obviously the big companies are there. I mean, this is a game for the big companies, for Microsoft, for Google, for maybe even Tesla. Okay, we'll see. But this is a game for them. And then where can the small guys enter, right? So I'm kind of getting back to your question. So basically, the small guys can invent things that are more specialized, or can use at almost infrastructure level the tools that are provided by the big guys, and enhance certain business models that they are serving right now currently. Maybe even improve those, right? So this is the thing that is going to be interesting to see in the next years. And in terms of how, another thing that the small companies could learn is to think big, especially when they think about going into new countries, into new markets, and is to think big in the way they are building their team, the senior team, the people that have the most influence on building the company, building the culture of the company, building the values and everything that makes people work every day, grind and love grinding. So this is something that you can learn from a big company, how you do that and to prioritize that. And that's something that engineers usually forget. And then they read a book, then they read a second book, and then they get a consultant or somebody to help them. But yeah, that's something they should learn from the big companies. Well, first of all, I interacted with the entire ecosystem in 2002, which was the after wave of the bust, the big bust in the startup world where everybody was raising gazillions with just a few PowerPoints on how they're going to sell Pampers on internet, or how they'll sell socks on internet or something. It was crazy. So in 2001, it was this internet bust or internet bubble. It burned down a lot. So it was really interesting to watch that. And the effect for us back then, we were in telecom and we were providing in telecom business and we were providing internet. So basically the underlying layers of all this. Suddenly a lot of businesses disappeared, a lot of customers disappeared, which was not fun at all. And that's why KPN Quest, our former owner, went down, because they were the backbone of internet in Europe, and suddenly like 30% of business disappeared over matter of weeks. I mean, like 6 weeks, 8 weeks. So it was like, what do you do? Anyway, so in a way, in a forced way, not very easy, not very gentle, I had to interact with this ecosystem and try to understand it from 2002. And then a lot of other things popped up along the years. There was much more rational approach up to 2011, I would say. And then it started, and everybody had money in 2007, 2006, and some things started in 2011 to be, bigger companies. They were more, unicorns here, and back then unicorns were rare. That's why the term unicorn is supposed to be rare. Anyway, so 2011 was a very interesting year. 2012 as well. And then I was thinking, oh, there is some company here. Oh, maybe I should try. And that was naive because there was no ecosystem around it. So basically the startups back then in Romania had a few options. They had the options to show off a bit on some accelerator stages. So they were at how to web type of event, the recap accelerator. There was Textilvania, I think it 2014, if I'm not wrong, or 13. Maybe I'm wrong. And there were various other smaller events compared to what it is. Everything was smaller. And the only chance that they had to get money, it was to get outside of Romania, right? Because back then there was actually just a bit later, in 2013 or 14, there was one fund here, which was a VC fund, was managed by 3TS. It was in the range of 15 million, if I'm not wrong. It's Catalyst One. And then some regional players like Early Bird and Credo Ventures and so on, right? And maybe later a bit Launch Hub and 11 from Bulgaria. That were kind of, you looking at what it is here. But if you look at the number of transactions back then, they were in the range of 10 per year. So 2021, we had 80 transactions, more or less. Last year, 2022, it was a slow year, and it was, again, 125 million, more or less, invested into startups born in Romania. And it's a big difference. Yeah. So those years were interesting, but the startups were not having too many options, and to get money. So maybe that was first lesson we got. Okay, you have to play it big. So you need to syndicate with other investors as angel investors, and to try to make more significant investments, not 10,000 or 20,000. Just put more significant amounts to try to help the startups to move to having a product, and then to have a chance to raise money from the VCs. So that was the mindset back then, 2013, 14, at least in the group of people I was surrounded, right? So that was the first lesson. You need to play it a bigger game if you want to have anything at the end of the day. Yeah. What happened was that already in 2016, there was still one active, which is the Catalyst One, but it was towards the end of their investment period, which is usually it's the first 5 years of a fund. So the ecosystem was a bit dry. So it was obvious that there is tech entrepreneurs got more educated. There were more startups popping up, but there were not enough money for the very early stage. And you could see that in all the accelerators like, Recap, Sprint Point. There were actually more than that around. There was Spheric in Cluj. There was the Academy that was near, besides How to Web, So all these were showing more and more startups, but not much investors. So okay, this is actually an opportunity, and it was obvious that you need more money to make something, So initially we thought to raise a very small fund. That was in 2016 towards the end. Actually a 12 million fund. But we did not manage to get an anchor investor, so we are running in circles. We didn't succeed in raising. But what happened was this program of EIF popped up, and we are already in the move. We are already moving, already with a team, already with investment thesis, already with a pipeline of projects, and we just applied to the, I think there were 20, 23 teams back then. I don't remember exactly. We applied, and well, we did it. And finally, there were only two teams that won. It's us, which was started in 1st of January 2018, and then early game started in, I think, January 2019, like 1 year afterwards. So what did attract was the opportunity, was the fact that the people that were into this are, and still are into this ecosystem, are very fresh-minded people trying to build the future, right? And okay, maybe some of it, of this future might be naive and not very pragmatic, but still you feel that energy. And among all these people that are trying to do something, you find also some of them that are actually very pragmatic as well, and they succeed in doing this fit between the product that they're thinking, or the business that they're thinking, and some demand in the market, the real demand. Yeah, but still looking at the future, how this can be a new technology or a new model that can change the way companies can operate. So I guess we were still in the years back then. We are still in the years of digital transformation right now. Now we are in the years of, or the era of AI, but we just entered. But still back then, 2017, 18, 19 were the years of digital transformation. So it was very interesting to see even back then people that are trying to get into that by using machine learning, for example, or automation, or automating certain things in developers tool, in DevTools. So big data, things like this are really actually very interesting, right? So again, it might sound boring or or overly technical, but the fact is that these people are thinking about how to build something for the future. And what we liked as well is that from time to time you get to meet people that want to build something that is very global, big business, like, you know. And it's funny, sometimes you ask such people, how big can this be? And they come with, wow. And you work back how that business would be, and in 5 years it's going to be 100 million. Okay, that's not bad. How do you do it? How do you plan to do it? How do you plan to execute it? And then you hear some very interesting things, and you learn a lot about those guys, you know. So you start enjoying more and more. The key is basically not to get over enthusiastic about, you know, the media type of success, and lots of startups are a bit of media type of success, and to understand what they can actually do to become a business and then later to become a company, you know. So all these things are very exciting, and it's very good. You have a lot of diversity of ideas, of concepts, of stages. So you learn a lot and you enjoy doing it, right? And you can help them. I think most of the funds in the region have such an anchor investor at minimum, right? So the one that tries to do a lot with the first-time fund managers, it's by far EIF in number of funds. A lot of them are first-time fund managers, and a lot of them are just getting into the ecosystem and bring something new into the ecosystem, just like we did in 2018. Then there is of course EBRD and IFC, which is basically the fund of World Bank and all that. So all of them are looking at funds in Central Europe with different levels of interest, with different levels of involvement along the years. But they are looking, and the point is that also the funds here from Central Europe are evolving. So they've been generation after generation, vintage after vintage of funds. And everybody is learning. So if you ask me where we are now, it's a lot of funds are basically getting a more generalist, for example, and getting more specialized. I mean, it's a big word. These specializations, it might sound like a big word because you don't have enough pipeline. If there are a lot of things here in Central Europe that are very diverse, but the volumes are low compared to London, right? So you can be specialized if you have enough projects. So fund managers in Central Europe are not overly specialized, but however, they became more specialized than they were like 5 years ago. Okay. So for example, we understand better the B2B space. It's because we are coming from that. That's our personal experience, our professional experience in a previous life. Then what do we understand? Well, probably we understand better fintech, cybersec, dev tools, and I don't know, data, right? That's what we understand. Do I understand online retail? Not so much. So maybe other investors should do that, basically. So that's a trend that it's happening now. And coming back to anchor investors understand now that the ecosystem moves to the next stage and they need to select fund managers that are getting to that wisdom level, that they get a bit more specialized and they are playing on their strengths instead of trying to do everything, right? What I don't see yet here in Central Europe, not so much, is are funds specialized in biotech, in climate tech. Yeah, so probably there is a new wave of fund managers that needs to appear to do that as well, because they are really good opportunities. Even the median valuation of a climate tech or a biotech company actually grew in 2022 when everything else was kind of going down. These were actually growing like 12-15% in a year when everything was like maybe not so much, except for cybersec, fintech, and on automation platforms. I think in 2022 everything else the median valuation went down. So think it over. In Central Europe, you don't have anything significant on biotech really. So it needs to pop up somewhere. Well, not very soon. In US, the VC world, well, the VC industry started like more than 60 years ago, and there are a few things there that are actually investing into the VC and private equity at large, which are endowments. So big universities have a lot of endowments, very large endowments, and they allocate between asset classes, and of course they have real estate, resources and whatever, and then they have private equity and venture capital. And the allocation is in endowments in the US. I think the allocation to venture capital is in the range of 14%, 15%, let's say. There are pension funds there that are looking openly and they're investing into top VCs in the tier 1 and tier 2 VCs, quite a lot of them. So there are lots of actors that in Europe actually do not exist, or they're not allowed by regulatory reasons to invest into the private equity and VC space, and that's a pity. On the other hand, they invest into such funds of funds as maybe EIF or whatever. So they invest in other vehicles that are called funds of funds, and they are more specialized on selecting the fund managers for certain investment theses. So there is a different landscape here in Europe versus US. There is a different size and a different regulatory regime. Well, honestly, I don't know. I just don't. I think it's a matter of European Union to prioritize certain things, right? So space tech, for example, it's how do you improve in space tech? Well, there are a few ways, but the reality is that Europe has one big program to launch satellites, which is Ariane, and that's booked for Amazon, right? So another, I don't know how many years, it's exclusivity. They cannot launch anything else than the Amazon satellites. So how do you solve that? There must be a solution for that. I don't know. Probably could be space tech type of startups or space tech focused funds. I don't know. So I think it's about prioritizing certain things and then to find channels to do it. Some of them could be grants, and the EU programs with grants, they're working just fine for the early stages of the startups, especially in the R&D phase, basically. Or they can reallocate things towards the private equity and VC industry somehow versus certain programs. I don't know I don't have the answer, and it's gonna take a few years to. So the idea back then was, I think it was misunderstood, and it was too much marketing from the West Coast, type of VCs, and especially strong angel investors from the West Coast, so San Francisco and so on. And such startups were thinking that if you come with this something very light, you can raise the money very fast and all that. It's not really like that in the VC ecosystem in Europe, not only Central Europe. It's not really like that. People need to understand, and people need to, by understanding, to start to trust that you can do things, and then if they trust you as an entrepreneur or an entrepreneur team, they can invest into this. So we are part of the process. Obviously, we've seen, I don't know, maybe 1,800 companies in all these 5 years from Romania and surrounding countries, and we invest in what, in 20. So we are part of this process of giving feedback. We are not alone. Obviously, lots of other people gave feedback, but so I guess now people come with much more structured approach, business approach. In the like 5 years ago, there were more engineers coming and teams of engineers coming and pitching. Right now, the mix is much better. So, engineers together with business people. So you can see this thing, and it has an impact because in real life, very few of the startups that were driven by exclusive teams of exclusively engineers only. Very few of them moved very fast, and well, it's so much that they can learn and do. That's the reality, right? And then they need to move very fast on, qualifying and finding the market fit for a product. Then they need to move very fast on selling it, right? Putting into the market, making adjustments in, I don't know, pricing or in the way they are selling it, in the way they are providing materials to the partner channel or partner ecosystem, and all these small things that they need to do. So it's very good to have basically good teams mixed with technical people and business people as entrepreneurs. That's way better than having only technical people needing to learn and trusting new employees, let's say, that they hire, and they are not technical. They don't understand the technology. Okay, that's not going to be that fast. That's the experience. Yeah. Okay, when you have few children, you cannot say, "Hey, this is the most beautiful, this is the smartest, this does most of the push-ups, and this, I don't know, the dance is the best. You don't do that, honestly. But there are, independent parties which made certain classifications at level of Romania, for example, and said these are the top 9. So Dirum, I think, together with Sifted, made things like that, looking at the top 9 startups under 200 million, which does not include FinTechOS, which is way above, right? So, and 9 startups in Romania that can become, they're raising stars, which can become large companies, right? Hopefully, we hope unicorns. And out of those, there are 4 that are seen by other people, like in our portfolio. Okay, and I think they didn't see at least 2 that should be there. But yeah, it's fine. They don't need to see it now. They need to see it when we do the exit. So that's. We had things that didn't move fast in certain moments of their lives, and we have one that we did write off. Yeah. Actually, this is a very important moment when the AI started to be part of our life, our lives, through this first wave of generative AI. So lots of startups can benefit from that and become, integrated in a way or another and use it. I think that still the key is to have a product that it's required by somebody and somebody is willing to pay for that, and then to scale it up as fast as possible. So from that perspective, looking at the people and the knowledge and talent and drive here, probably the B2B startups will be in the next immediate future the more successful ones. However, the consumer market starts to be a bit bigger than it was before, I think, and it might be a good ecosystem in a few years also for B2C startups. The problem so far with the B2C was this: basically, there was not a big market. The Central European market is very fragmented, very different languages, culture, even religions, and all that. And you cannot scale up easily a B2C startup born in Romania, unless you really do it from the beginning, rather in a big market like, I don't know, UK or US. So, which didn't happen, by the way. I didn't see that many even trying. So I think in 3 years, 5 years, we could have a good environment also for B2C startups. But now it's gonna be still B2B, and they should. It's very intuitive, so they should actually benefit from integrating in a way or another AI into their product to enable them to have a very good product that is easy to sell. There is somebody who really willing to pay for it. Yeah. Yeah, I think there are, but to be fair, we as a team, we're just thinking we have to be right about the investments we made. We don't have to be right about where we said no. It doesn't matter. Maybe we said no to a company and then they are a very good company finally, and they're gonna be a great success. And we said no. We don't care about that. We have to be right about the ones we said yes, where we invested. That's how we're gonna make our money and give it back to our investors, by being right about these guys, not about where we said no. That being said, we said no to a few companies, and now I don't know. They look like good companies. We usually actually do this. We build a relationship very early. So we say maybe it's not a good time. Maybe we should talk in 1 year if you are there and there and there, right? Could be 6 months or 1 year, whatever. But you should be there and there and there with this certain, I don't know, KPIs, certain revenue, certain size of the team, or I don't know, a solution for the cap table that is not properly built up and they need to clean it out, or things like this, right? So we usually build the relationship, and when they are ready, they give us a sign. And it happened. We have a few into the portfolio where we invested not from the first contact, but later, maybe even 18 months later, from after the first contact. Okay, we've seen them more often in 2018, 2019, like popping up, That's when the first ones started to get, enough courage to, move from whatever businesses they had and try to do these startups. And they came to the accelerator, to the Accelerator, which is our accelerator program, as you know, and right now we support them among other funds that are supporting them. And basically in 2018, 2019, we've seen a lot of people that were aware that, there is a new accelerator in town, and this time they can get investments. Okay. So they came with a lot of courageous, concepts. I think in the first year we've seen more than 200 only for the accelerator, right? And there are very good concepts, very new concepts, very fresh. Um, and I think agri-tech started to pop up since 2017, actually. There was one project at least that raised money only in 2020, just to give you an idea how it works. They didn't raise from us. Health tech was very, very intense. Healthcare IT, actually. Healthcare IT was very intense in 2018 and 19 as opportunities, and we took them. We have Medicai X-Vision, which is now called Rayscape, right? So we have a few others as well in the dentistry, technical cabinets. There were a few things like this, but all of them were healthcare IT, basically systems. The first ones in like Medica and X-Vision were very, very strong on machine learning. Actually, they won multiple prizes and all those things. So they were very good, and they were used. At least X-Vision was used during the pandemic for secondary triage in initially like 12 hospitals, and now they're in more than 42 hospitals in Romania. So yeah, there was something there that starting from 2018, 2019. And I think in those years it was very hot also about human capital management. And in 2020, 2021, it was about logistics and then underlying tires of or layers, if you want, layers that are serving the e-commerce ecosystem. So those years were very strong on e-commerce, high growth, because we all had to order online, obviously. And then you imagine that all the logistics behind needed to be stronger, and automation of those was very important. So that we had InnoShip, which we also exited in, I don't know, October last year, to a regional player. We have Frisbo, which is doing e-fulfillment, and it's a few millions, not 2 millions, but above that in revenues. So it's quite a good business. And it's regional. It's not only in Romania. So there were such things that appeared in time during as opportunities appeared in the market as well. If there is something that is good, is that we did not invest in copies of companies that were already outside. We tried to invest in the same rhythm as something else popped up, maybe in Germany, for example. So we invested within the same interval of 3 months when something popped up, for example. Yeah. Okay, so it's about the size of the market for themselves. So where are their customers? So it depends on that. Where are their customers? How big they are? How long it takes to sell to one customer? And the sales cycles can be very long if you have a very strong top enterprise product. You can have a sales cycle easily above 6 months, maybe in the 12 months region. So range. So it's not easy. So it depends. Um, what I've seen is that it's very important to have this mix into the leadership team of any such startups after the Series A, and basically add talent from especially in marketing and in product marketing and in sometimes in the sales or customer success, that are from very big markets like UK, US, and they know how those markets are working. They know big list of customers already, and they try to use it in a way or another. So we've seen that repeatedly being a part of the success of these companies like Mihăescu, Druid, and all those that you need, Veridian, Solidify, and all those. So everything. They had this moment where they needed to add people to their teams that are very good people in those markets. So there are a lot of small things. There is never a big thing. If there is a big thing, we don't even care to talk to those guys again. I think the most important part is to understand that they need the most important resource of any startup is time. It's not money. It's not people. It's time. So everything you do, you need to have this thing like, okay, I need to do things fast, very fast, high acceleration. So that's one mistake that I've seen into a lot of startups, basically taking too long to make the perfect product and then to, okay, test it with somebody. And it takes too long to put it into the market and all that. So after you spend like 3 years of only doing that, it's not perfect. It's not ideal. So that's one thing. So understanding that time is the most important resource, and money that you get from investors are just you can use to increase your team, and compress the time really. As I said, there are some areas that are not covered. Biotech is not covered. I don't think we have too many biotech, but it could be a biotech fund that looks at all the region, and then it will have enough pipeline. Climate tech, yeah, it's possible. Again, this needs to look at the regional level because there's not enough pipeline only from Romania. Space tech, yeah, should be somebody that knows how to do that. And then, of course, as I said, maybe in 3 years the market will be ready to have bigger startups that are in a B2C space. So then you need somebody that knows B2C. Right now, I'm not sure. I don't get the flavor that there is somebody that actually knows that very, very well. Okay, and yeah, that's I think B2C will be actually the largest one if you think it over. It's not niched. It's like the largest and the largest unicorns and the fastest unicorns in US because it's a big market. They are actually B2C. So probably B2C will be the big opportunity in 3-5 years from now. So it's good to get some extra funds here. We are a beautiful ecosystem, but we are small. Let's put it this way. Yeah. So I think in terms of size of ecosystem versus GDP, I think we are the last ones among these countries. We are lower than Bulgaria for sure. We are lower than Poland for sure, and Czech. I'm not sure about Hungary or Slovakia, but yeah. But we are better than southeastern, former Yugoslavian space. So we are better than that, except Croatia. So yeah, I think we are a beautiful ecosystem, very small, which means that there are opportunities, right? It's a bit specialized into B2B, as I said, and a lot of flavors on cybersec, which are not in all the countries that I mentioned. Actually, very few startups in cybersec you can see in, I don't know, Bulgaria compared to Romania. Let's say, just as an example. Okay, so there is a knowledge, a certain specialization that should be encouraged and should help the ecosystem to grow. There are not many investors here, so this is good and bad at the same time. So let's see. I think that if there are more VCs coming to Romania and with a more clear investment thesis, I think that it's a good thing for the ecosystem. If only generalists, opportunistic type of are coming, well, money are good. What can I say? But they're not enough. It's obviously not enough. We've seen that. We've seen that in Poland. It's not very far from us. We've seen that money are not enough, right? They have like more than 60 funds that invested a large amounts into startups, and then those startups remained local. Okay, Poland is a big market, let's say, compared to Romania anyway, it's big, but those startups proportionally did not go outside of Poland, and that's not a success. That's a sign of not big success, right? So you don't want to replicate Poland, just as a model. Well, I think it's very good it's very important that the entire ecosystem understands what are the success factors, and each one at each level or stage educates or helps these entrepreneurs to learn and to adapt. So basically, not everybody is constructed to have such a big adventure in their life to dedicate the next 10 years of their lives to one company and do a big thing in US. Not everybody can do it. That's the truth. Some of them might want to do just EMAG number 3, and okay, that's not bad. It's actually very good. But how big can it be? 1 billion? I don't know, right? But that's a good business, right? So people need. I think all we can do is actually to lay down the options and let people understand what are the potential paths, okay? And they have to choose because it's their life. They will have to dedicate, I don't know, 5 to 10 years to do these things and make them work. I think it's too early to actually have that in a big way to be differentiated, but I think cybersec is actually a strong thing that we have here, the knowledge about cybersec, as in an industry, as products, and in general about technology that is used in cybersec. Um, Automation, it's something that it's obviously this is the hotbed of Europe for automation, because of UiPath educating a lot of talent and building an entire ecosystem. Uh, However, it's a question in this new era of AI, how much of that is actually needed? Because right now you can automate lots of processes by just dropping, lots of emails, thousands of emails and whatever, and you can extract what are the real flows in the company and the way that the company actually works. So it's a question mark, obviously. But this is a pool of talent that we have here, and it might evolve and to get assisted by in their startups. I guess these two, yeah. And generally, I think the B2B it's probably the stronghold here yet, still. So there are different layers of investors. So the angel investors, there are two layers, let's say. One is the very highly educated and basically in technology educated people that are actually trying to invest via, I don't know, tech angels or Transylvania angel networks or similar like that. So basically, it's a group of angel investors that it's cohesive and understands the business and wants to roll up the sleeves and invest into the startups. And most of them are actually good. Let's say this, okay. Then it's the passive type of angel investor, which is almost like a retail investor, and they invest via Seedblink or crowdfunding platform. And basically, they have no contact with the company. They just smell that company is good, and then they do it. So it's good. It's a good environment. Those money are good. On the other hand, it's good that the management of Seedblink is actually well experienced. So that's another paradigm. What I wish is that more people from this pool will get educated in time and basically be ready to put larger tickets into startups via Seedblink or via syndicating via the tech angels or whatever, the Transylvania angel networks. But being ready to contribute, roll up the sleeves and contribute a bit to help the basically the entire ecosystem cannot thrive or grow anyway if there is not a strong angel investor, pool. So you need that, right? In institutional investors, I think they should be larger first of all. Maybe not so. We are like what, 4 funds? Sorry, 4 funds now, 5. Sorry. So we have 5 funds. I think a number of 7 funds is the right number, and they need to be a bit larger. All of them. So you need to be able to sustain the startups longer. We usually get into the startups, we sustain them like 2 rounds. We hold board positions and all that to be able to help the company from within, and to help the company to grow, to help the company to package towards the next round and all that. So that you can do that only if you have deep enough pockets to invest in successive rounds. If you invest in only one round and then you don't do. So imagine 2023, right? 2022. What happened? Everybody had a slowdown. What did they do? Some of them were successful in raising some rounds, but most of them had to go back to their existing investors and ask for a bridge loan, let's say, a bridge investment, bridge round, up to the next round. Yeah, when the market hopefully will be better. So lots of people have done that. So what do you need? You need investors that can help you in those difficult moments. So coming back, what do you need? Well, in the ecosystem, you need funds that are bigger, with deeper pockets. And deeper pockets mean they can sustain the companies through bad times, and they have larger teams with lots of knowledge that can be, actively helping the entrepreneurs. That's what you need when the times are not good. When the times are nice, everybody can invest, almost spray and pray, and the big wave helps everybody, all the boats to rise. But yeah, we're not living in very usual times now. I mean, literally, are very difficult times, 2022 and 2023. The customers of our startups, of everybody's startups, are affected by this potential huge crisis. As you know, in Q1 we just seen that the largest economy in Europe it's actually has been into contraction, right? On the other hand, you hear that the US is gonna try to stabilize the interest rate sometime in July. It might be true, might be not. But all these macro influences might drive a smoother crisis or a deeper crisis at a macroeconomic level. That influences the customers of the startups as well. And there you go. So What do you need? Yeah, obviously that you need, funds that have more knowledge built into their teams. So they probably need larger teams, just to be fair, and also deeper pockets to help the companies to pass through the bad times. So basically, when you raise money, you need to raise for the probably beyond the end of 2024, yeah, as a startup. When you are a fund, you need to help the companies to do that and put money into them to go beyond 2024 if possible. You need to be very strict about the metrics. Cash is king. This is a period when, let's say, three important things for the future, I guess. It's one, it's cash is king. Again, like in any crisis. So you need to understand that you need to manage the cash in a way that you have this runway up to beyond 2024. Uh, and sometimes it means prioritizing who you are hiring, maybe delay some hires, maybe replacing, I don't know, headcounts in Asia, for example, and actually insist on hiring people in US, which is maybe a faster market in a way. So you have to take these decisions, right? And if you look at the entire industry, there are lots of startups who fired a lot of people, like 8 to 10% of their headcount, even 15% of their headcount. And they suddenly look like, oh, we are doing fine. So what were you thinking, when you had 15 extra percent of people, right? Anyway, so this is one thing, cash is king. Second thing that you need to have is understand the AI wave and jump into the AI wave, because this is going to make a difference in 12 months. If you don't use properly something from AI, probably you won't be that interesting for investors. And that would be because you cannot scale up fast enough, because your product is going to be replaced by other products that are actually enabled by AI. And the third thing that I see for the next period is that people will stick with what they know. So people will stick with the industries that they know, including the investors. Okay, so yeah, what I said earlier, a bit of specialization. I think we're gonna have two rounds that are with companies from our portfolio in the first fund. Two rounds that are quite sizable. I cannot disclose more, but you'll see. And then a few smaller ones. And then if we are preparing to do a first closing for the second fund. Basically, we've been working on it with EIF for a while. We are heading towards being ready to do a first closing and announce it in the market that we have a second fund. We are ready to invest again into new companies. Yeah. It is a startup, and you are always in that mood. You understand very well what is happening to the startups because you are always in this situation. You're always talking to investors. You are always trying to find new lines of business if you want, and to learn new concepts and to integrate it somehow, and not to throw away money. So you are always into that mindset. So it's true. Now, I don't know, with the mindset I had in back then in 2015, 16, I don't know if I wouldn't have, think all this thinking together with my friends to start up an entire fund. Probably I would have been thinking about going and working outside. Yeah, with the mindset back then. Right now, no. I would have probably done a startup. I love cybersec very well, and I quite understand it. So that's a field that I love. Yeah. I don't really need to. But I actually love what I'm doing here, and we are a team that is great, and we work great together. We have also lots of fun, and it's a very good business to be in. Like you actually learn a lot. You learn way more than in one MBA or working in a multinational. Really, you learn a lot.